Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome back to Myth Busting Mondays. Now, if you were wondering why I may or may not sound slightly different in today's video, that is because I am currently sick. I have been sick for the last few days, and that's why a couple of the videos this week have sounded a little bit different than normal. So I do apologize if I don't have the same energy or pep that I normally do, but I am getting better. I just want to say thank you for all your patience and good wishes. And also, shoutouts to Glabersko, Dan, and Vader, because without them, this week's episode would just not be possible. I just have not been feeling well, and they got all the gameplay for me for this week for today's episode. So please, in the comment section down below, share some love to Dan, Vader, and Glabersko, because they all deserve it. But yeah, guys, other than that, though, I hope you look forward to today's episode, because for the final myth of today's episode, we are going to be seeing if whether or not it's possible to reuse rescue closets. So, for example, if I were to kill my teammates and they spawn in a rescue closet, if I were to kill them again, would they spawn in the exact same rescue closet, or would they spawn in a different rescue closet? That is going to be the final myth in today's episode, and if you enjoyed today's video, please drop a like at the very end. But yeah, guys, I hope you end up enjoying this week's episode of Myth Busting Mondays. Myth: can you stun boss ridden with a stun gun in Back 4 Blood? Alrighty guys, so for the first myth for the episode, this is going to be submitted in by Tyler. Now, the boss ridden and Back 4 Blood are immune to several different things, which honestly surprises me how immune they really are. But we do want to end up testing every single thing. So we are now testing the stun gun. Is the stun gun going to end up being added to the list of things that cannot affect the boss ridden, or will this be a device that we can use and keep in our back pocket? So Dan and Glabersko are going to be facing all the different bosses, the first one being the ogre here, and they're going to try to use a stun gun while they are being grabbed, or just simply next to the ogre, and seeing if whether or not that the ogre just stands still or freaks out. So far, it looks like that when you stun him from the outside, according to this video that I'm showing you right here, the ogre does indeed get stunned. But is this just a fluke, or is it not? Because when Dan does it now, it looks like the exact same thing happens again, even though the boss ridden is making it so that way he can't get close without getting knocked back. He is not getting attacked like how Vader does shortly thereafter. So it looks like that it does at least affect the ogre out of the three boss ridden there in the game. Alright, now we're going to test this on the breaker. So as a breaker comes out of the garage here, Glabersko is going to hit him with his stun gun, and it looks like that immediately the breaker ends up freaking out and he cannot move. So it does give them an opening to end up shooting him with some guns. And now finally, for the last boss ridden of the game, we are now testing this out on the Hag. Now while Vader is being eaten by the Hag, he cannot use the stun gun to save himself, but everybody else who is not getting eaten can. So that means that the ogre, the breaker, and the Hag can all be affected by the stun gun. It's just that you cannot be pinned by the special infected while you're using the stun gun. So that means that this first myth is going to end up being confirmed. You can end up using the stun gun to end up stopping the boss ridden in Back 4 Blood. I would not recommend that you would do this in solo play. This would be more rather recommended for co-op, because you really don't want to end up sacrificing an entire slot for your equipment in order to save a bot. But if you're trying to keep your teammates alive, for example, for like, let's say a nightmare run, this might be a useful strategy to you. Myth: can the van in the panic event on Dead Air run over the witch? Alrighty guys, myth number 2 is going to be submitted in by Zoe. So right now, the guys end up having a crap ton of witches just in front of the van, and it looks like from the gameplay that the witches do not die to the van, because the van will just ignore them and just go around them. So that means myth number 2 of the episode is going to end up being busted. You cannot have the witch be run over by the Dead Air van. Myth: can you use spawned-in gas cans to fill up Jimmy Gibbs' stock car? Alrighty guys, so for myth number 3, this is going to be submitted in by Rise QB. So Dan and Glabersko are going to try to fill up Jimmy Gibbs' stock car with gasoline cans that they have spawned from their admin menu instead of the ones that are lying around the map. Now they are basically identical in terms of looks, and they are pretty much identical in terms of function, because it looks like that is indeed filling it up, but it's going to end up being a matter of whether or not that the cutscene will trigger to figure out whether or not that this myth is really confirmed or not, because what does this really end up benefiting you if you can't escape? So it looks like that Glabersko and Dan should be finished up here any second now, and it looks like that the cutscene does indeed play, which means that this myth is going to end up being confirmed. You can use gas cans that are spawned in artificially in order to rescue yourself on Dead Center. Myth: Can you use helicopter blades to kill a tank? Alrighty guys, so myth number 4 is submitted in by Vader. Now, the way that Dan and Glabursko decided to test this was to go onto the parish and just use a giant military helicopter because these blades are just gigantic. It would give them the best possible room to be able to do something like this. So what Dan decided to do was make a giant staircase for the tank to climb up on, so that way Dan could lure him into his trap. So Glabursko is flying above the helicopter to get a really good aerial view, and we're going to be seeing if whether or not that by walking the tank into the blades, if it will cause the tank's death. The main thing that I noticed from the guy's gameplay was just trying to get the tank to run up the staircase even at all, because the tank either wanted to throw rocks at the guys, or it just did not want to cooperate by going up the stairs and just instead decided to climb up on the helicopter, jump down, or do random things, etc. But it looks like that eventually Dan was able to get the tank to end up going into the blades. And it looks like that the tank does indeed die to the helicopter blades, which means that myth number 4 here is also going to end up being confirmed. I don't necessarily know if you'll be able to achieve this in a legitimate game, but it is really cool to know that the tank is not completely invincible. Too bad the military didn't know about this strategy. Alrighty guys, so now it's final myth time, and the final myth is once again going to be, can you reuse rescue closets? It's basically a follow-up myth from last week's episode, and I really am curious to see what the results will be because I was not here for this week, so I have no idea whether or not it's going to be confirmed or busted ahead of time. So let's find out in the episode together. Myth: can you reuse rescue closets in Left 4 Dead 2? Alright guys, so the final myth of today's episode is going to be submitted in by Glabursko. So Dan and Glabursko are going to be testing this myth out by doing the following. They are going to end up killing a bot version of Bill and Lewis while they are playing on Crash Course. They are going to run throughout the map until they end up getting the survivors to pop up in a rescue closet. Then from that point, they will retreat back to the safe room, re-kill the same bot survivors again, and just proceed throughout the map again and see if whether or not that they will spawn within the same rescue closet. Now, in order to show this myth in the best possible way, I'm just going to speed up the footage and have no cuts, so it doesn't look like that we stitched 2 different gameplays together to end up fabricating a result. So this is going to be exactly 1 minute's worth of gameplay just sped up so that way you guys can end up seeing basically what happened. If you guys want to pause, you can, but I'm just going to show you guys basically what it was in summary. So essentially what happened was that the moment that the bot survivors die, they spawned in relatively close from the safe room. Now as we end up running throughout the map again, they do not spawn in the exact same rescue closet. They actually end up spawning up here near the panic event. So what's going to happen is that Dan and Glabursko are going to end up killing the bots in the safe room again one last time just to see if that they spawn in that rescue closet now, or they will even go back to the prior one, because that also might be a little bit of a weird thing that possibly could happen that I just only thought of right now actually. But it looks like that the original rescue closet did not spawn the survivors, and also as they proceed throughout the map it looks like that the other one did not as well. Therefore meaning that this myth is going to end up being busted. You cannot reuse the same rescue closets in Left 4 Dead. If a bot survivor, or just I assume a survivor in general, dies, you at that point have to find another rescue closet to be able to save them again, unless you have a defibrillator. But yeah, everybody, that is going to be it here for this week's episode of Myth-Busting Mondays. And I just want to say, once again, shoutouts to Glabursko, Dan, and Vader, because without them, this week would not be possible. So thank you guys so much for helping out with this week's episode of Myth-Busting Mondays. And please definitely share some love with them in the comment section down below, because they do definitely deserve it. But yeah, guys, if you would like to have one of your myths be featured in next week's episode, please by all means put them in the comment section down below, or put them in the Discord that is linked down below in the description. And as we wrap up today's video, guys, just want to mention one last thing, that if you would like to financially support the channel, I would tremendously appreciate if you guys could end up checking my Patreon, is linked down below in my YouTube video descriptions. Please also use my supporter creator code BlackNinja797 in all caps in the Fortnite and Epic Games item shops, because Epic is my very first sponsor and they are sponsoring today's video, so shout out to Epic Games. And lastly, guys, I also want to let you know that I recently started a business. It is called Breakthrough Business. With Breakthrough, I'm going to be making multiple different psychology-themed courses on how you guys can end up improving things such as your character, your mental health, and also your relationships. All this additional content is going to be available at mastermind.com, and already within mastermind.com I have my very first course out for you guys, which is called The Courageous Man Blueprint, How to Achieve Unbreakable Confidence for Young Men. So please definitely check out all those things that I just mentioned down below in the description. But yeah, guys, I hope you ended up enjoying seeing another YouTube video from the most unique YouTubers you're ever going to see. Thanks for watching, guys. I love all of you, and peace out.
Hey, meme lords, Jesus here. And you better have enjoyed that video there by the eternal god Daddy Ninja. You should probably subscribe too, or the mighty Moab will come for your balls. If you enjoyed the video, you might like it too. And give me the memes. Flash, bang, boom!